Hello, and welcome back to Cable Space Program. No, Kerbal Space Program, of course. So today we're gonna go back to the moon for lunar landing. For the lunar landing. Sorry, and at the same time we're gonna complete a contract, which means, which is about docking two vessels in orbit in orbit around the moon, and we will do this kind of Apollo style where we will reconfigure our spacecraft. So, but now first into the into the VAB, where I want to show you a special technique which is really efficient, called asparagus staging. And as you can see or saw already on the screen, we have 6 external liquid fuel tanks around the central core, and we have on every of those cores kind of special those fuel lines. So first of all, we got one which feeds, so to like on the opposite side, of course, to balance the craft, we have one fuel duct which goes into the main tank, and then we have one which feeds into the one which feeds into the main tank, and the third one which feeds into the one fuel tank which feeds into the one which feeds into the main tank. Sounds complicated, but you have the example right in front of you. So, and now we have, of course, to decouple those in the correct order. So the first one, who is empty, is kind of the last one in the fuel line. So the last one who is empty is the one who is connected to the main tank. Thus, the last one who is kind of connected through this to the main tank will be the first one to separate. And as you can see, with hovering above the detachment clamps, you can see which one is usually kind of selected, and then you can take those into a separate stage. Though you will see everything in action in a couple of, probably in 1 or 2 minutes. So, and as you can see now, at the top we have this lander configuration where we have a kind of re-entry craft which will flip around and dock to the kind of landing craft. Though I won't let them kind of in orbit around the moon as the real Apollo missions, since this is kind of too tedious for me, and I don't really want to kind of dock again. Well, I think we haven't even docked in this in this series. So anyways, I'm not really keen on docking at the moment, so we'll just flip them around, complete the contract, and then head down with everything together. As you can see now, more or less, I'm because we have some limitations on our launch pad, I'm trying to kind of get the craft as heavy as I can without going overboard, to add the most amount of fuel that we can use in order to kind of get everything working. And it is kind of, those limitations are a little bit annoying. Same goes for our part limitations, because sometimes I'd like to use other parts which we still haven't unlocked. And this mission should be pretty beneficial in terms of science as well, since we will do, of course, a manned landing, which is pretty obvious by all those construction and film things. So, and manned landings always give a decent amount of a decent amount of science, since we can take surface samples. We have even a science junior with us, which will give us also a good amount of science, of course. And of course, because of the nature of this mission, of this contract, we also get some money and science points probably out of it. So now, Moon Apollo, kind of Apollo styled, since it's not kind of the same, of course. Now I've skipped forward. As you can see, the craft is slightly different because I ran a few tests before officially, in brackets, officially launching it, just to test out whether the thrust weight ratio goes, whether my staging is correct. I'd like to test those things out before really launching it, since sometimes I'm just not really patient. Speaking of not really patient and messing up the staging, I have been working, because there's also a reason why we haven't, or you guys haven't had a video last weekend, is because I was 4 days or so trying to get an Eve mission working. So I constructed 3 separate Eve landers, which all of them should get off Eve. So the thing is, Eve is the most difficult body. They would kind of do a slightly tutorial-like mission, though whatever. I kind of wanted to do it, though the problem was not even getting to Eve, neither was the I didn't test the mission as a whole. It just tests the separate parts, of course. Like, for example, I created the launcher, then I launched it from Kerbin, of course, and saw how much whether we had more or less a lot of fuel remaining. And then I did the same with the launch craft, which launched the kind of Eve lander itself, to get this one into orbit, and then do we have enough fuel to get kind of our orbital periapsis down to the orbit of Eve, because then we'll kind of get in codes. But now let's focus first of all onto the on-screen things. As you can see now, the two liquid boosters separated kind of exactly parallel, and you saw that the other fuel levels on the left hand side were full, so the other liquid fuel boosters were fully fueled, and now you can see approaching the second stage separation, fuel runs out, separating, and now the fuel gauge is again fully fueled, because those those boosters are completely filled, and with every kind of separating pair, the amount, like the time those engines burn, increases. I'm not quite sure whether it doubles, but I'm not quite sure about that, but it really increases a lot. So, and once those two separate, which will be in the next 10 seconds, and probably, yeah, right, there we go, we have again a fully fueled central tank, which is really decent. Now we can kind of fast forward a little bit faster, checking whether we have anything of interest here in terms of, you know, getting the more science points. Now creating a maneuver node, kind of nothing special, so I can return to my Eve topic thing. So I'll return, of course, to the footage once it gets more interesting. So yeah, anyway, so as I said, I kind of tested everything out, but the main problem, which I kind of course tested only slightly, was the re-entry. I couldn't test it, of course, properly, but still every test I did, the craft flipped around and burned up. Like literally, the problem was not kind of getting to Eve, but oh, by the way, here ditching our big orange booster into the surface of the moon so that we don't leave any debris, even though I don't really care about debris in this save file, at least. No, I mainly don't care about debris really, because it's just a pain in the ass to focus more on that, though it is also an interesting challenge if you're seeking a challenge of this. And since this series should also help new players, you can also kind of see that it is not necessary to focus about the debris. Now for doing all kinds of science missions there, so to get most of our science things out of it, the most amount of science out of this thing. Now detaching, turning around, and docking, and the mission doesn't kind of check up that we have docked two different crafts in orbit around the moon, which is really annoying. And though I decided, you know what, let's forget about this shit and let's forget about that and just focus. Now you can see there those three boosters, three tanks detaching briefly. Kind of, I like this kind of staging. It really looks pretty decent. And those small explosions in the background, pam pam pam, also nice, kind of welcoming, I guess, to our big craft, which is pretty tall, and we have engines on both sides, which is also kind of amusing. Anyways. Yeah, and yeah, the thing is with the mission, I'm not sure whether I'll continue struggling with getting this thing properly to re-enter without turning around and presenting the side to the atmosphere where no heat shields are. Of course I have on both the sides heat shield, but whatever. Anyways, let's focus more on the more interesting parts, which is tipping over my big craft, which is kind of bad. I have no idea how I'm going to launch this thing, and trust me, launching this thing was a catastrophe, really terrible, beyond everything. But first we're going to do the more important things, that is collecting all the science data, doing everything we can. First I even thought maybe doing a few oh my lander, yeah, doing a few jumps in order to maybe, you know, increase our science gain, but now our only kind of goal is to get this craft working, or at least to get this craft and jeopardize safely home, since we have already lost poor Valentina Cohen. I don't want to lose another one of our brave pilots, so I was really frustrated. So carefully sliding downhill, hoping until we turn around and facing kind of upwards, and then coasting up. And maybe once we reach the top of the cliff, like of this crater, we jump up, and then we could have maybe 1 or 2 seconds to flip around and do everything. But then 1/3 of our engine power exploded, and we started to turning around and going again further downhill, which is definitely not interesting. And by the way, if you can see, this is normal time speed. So tell me if you like this normal time speed to have it a little bit more interesting. Anyways, now we detached the last engine, which still was technically working, but of course completely off balance, and then to this kind of ascent stage, or this was planned to be an ascent stage, and we're completely sideways now and rolling downhill, activating RCS, and I came up with the idea going radially out and full throttle by the autopilot thing, and this worked. Okay, so for you, tips: once you have a situation that's really difficult to get out, use this auto markers on the side which you get with increasing level of your crew, or with some probes already, like with the advanced probes, like high tier probes, you will already have all the markers, if I'm not mistaken. Though right now we can see we have we are leaving the sphere of influence of the moon, leaving this lander coasting aside, which will end up in a, as you can see, in this trajectory around Kerbin. So space debris, whatever. Probably not gonna care about that either, but now the thing is not really interesting. We're just doing a plain re-entry, and once we're close to Kerbin, burning up the remaining fuel, which is still a lot more than I expected, because I wanted to make a few hops on the surface of Kerbin, so maybe even the lander was, well, I didn't really plan anything with the lander can, but best way, or the best thing would have been kind of going into a suborbital trajectory, a high suborbital trajectory, and then just leaving it fall down again, and no space debris like we did with the big orange tank. But anyways, now landing or coming back down towards the surface of Kerbin, which will also conclude our mission, of course, but first we of course have to wait in this lovely time. Okay, now it's going to get really weird. I decided to look out of the window at the final few meters, and it was really sickening already almost, so yeah, sorry about that, but still kind of a funny idea. Checking out if we have anything or any signs together here on Kerbin, even though that's rarely the case. Back to the KSP, 400 science points added, juicy, really good, juicy, yeah. We have also completed one of the contracts and the sub-parameter of the one we really wanted to do, so the orbit, the docking two crafts in orbit around the moon. So probably we're gonna do in the next episode, we're gonna complete this contract and probably also gather some more science points, since I think we need more science. With only 530 science points, we can only gather 3 of those notes, if my math is not completely ridiculously bad. By the way, it is extremely hot, or this summer is extremely hot here, so it's even the hottest summer on record, so yeah, I'm really melting already here. Literally melting. But you shouldn't care about that, and you should just enjoy your summer vacations, or just your summertime and whatever. Yeah, and I guess on this note I can say you see which notes I'll pick. So advanced fuel, of course, well, not really of course, but advanced fuel systems is a good thing, and the last one will be precise propulsion. So on this note, I'll say thank you very much for watching, and until next time, Spaceship signing out.